Hello everyone and welcome. Today we'll be taking a look at the two limited edition pods that are out by Nespresso, and that is our pistachio vanilla and our coconut vanilla. These flavors are available in the original line, which I have, as well as the vertuo line. I'm fairly certain that they had these flavors before, although I think they were just pistachio and coconut without the addition of vanilla. These flavors are intended for iced coffee, although I'm pretty sure they just use that as a marketing tactic every summer for the hot weather. At the end of the day, they are normal flavored coffee pods, and you can definitely use them for hot beverages as well. I'm going to try them both in different ways, and we'll see how they taste. Let's get started. So the pistachio vanilla is a blend of two different beans, 100% Arabica, coming from Brazil and Colombia. They say naturally sweet on their website, which probably means that the Brazil is a natural process and the Colombian is a washed coffee. While I've noticed that for their flavored coffees, they don't tend to include a roast level like they normally do, the description implies a fairly light roasting for both coffees. We'll start by pulling an espresso shot here as we look at the tasting notes that they provide on their website. I'm going to be using my tulip-shaped glass here. A quick note on my tulip-shaped glass, I like to use this for straight espresso. It helps to funnel the aromas to the top. It also helps you be able to swirl it and cool it down quickly. It's actually normally used for whiskey or neat spirits, but it's very good for espresso as well. So the tasting notes experience the delightful flavors of pistachio, bitter almond, reminiscent of amaretto, delectable pastries and biscuits, rich caramel tones, creamy bourbon vanilla, all combining to create a truly satisfying, indulgent sensory experience. Best served as an espresso or an iced coffee. All right, so this is our standard espresso pour. We'll start by tasting this, and then we'll add some ice. We'll have some milk with it as well. So what do we get on the nose? So I do get a little bit of pistachio, but I think I'm getting other aromas more predominantly. I am getting this sort of bright, ripe kind of citrus. The almond amaretto that it mentions, I think, is very clear in this as well. I think pistachio is a very nuanced flavor. It's a very difficult flavor to reproduce. Some hints of vanilla. And it's heavily flavored. You can tell that. It has this very roasty, coffee, malty undertone to it, with all of this, I don't want to say fake, but yes, like flavored sort of aromatic components coming on top. All right, so let's see how it tastes. That's really interesting because you actually get a lot more of that nuttiness, of that inherent like pistachio, salty nuttiness alongside with the vanilla and the apricot and that sort of amaretto flavor. It's really quite nice as a straight espresso. I think that light roasting profile has really helped it to kind of stay away from that dark, bitter flavor that I don't really like. And I think if you're going to do a flavored coffee, you don't want any of that bitterness or astringency to drag down the flavor that you're trying to impose on your coffee. I think now is a good time to add some ice, and we'll see how it tastes. So we'll add one ice cube here, and I might as well just mention, if you haven't already, these Nespresso ice cube trays are phenomenal. They are great size of ice cube, not only for coffee, but actually for cocktails as well. I believe they are 2.5 by 2.5 inches. They stack 3 of them vertically in your freezer. It's a great compromise between not being too big and not being too small. It keeps things cold without diluting too much. It's really nice. So we'll see if this fits. Ooh, clean up a little spill there. So let's see how it tastes just cold without milk yet. Whoa. The flavors, the ripe fruit flavors, the bright kind of the citrus and that apricot, that amaretto has kind of gone through the roof as it got colder, which is really interesting. I will say it's a little less of that nuttiness and a little less pistachio, but way more of that bright, refreshing fruit flavor. Let's add a splash of milk and we'll see how that changes the flavor as well. So that's also really interesting. I feel like the trajectory of this drink over the 3 different things that I've tried has been very, very interesting and kind of all over the place. Now that it has milk, it has kind of gone back to the nuttiness, but has still retained some of that bright fruit flavor. It's almost like it's in the middle of what it was when it was hot versus cold without milk. Adding the milk kind of bridges the gap, so I'm getting back some of that nutty pistachio flavor that I'm looking for, but I'm also still getting quite a bit of that like bright, refreshing fruitiness, and that amaretto, that apricot is really coming through here as well. I can see why they recommend it to be iced. I think this probably is the best of the 3 iterations that we tried, having it iced with milk. I think the lighter roasted profiles of these coffees kind of lend themselves to a brighter, more refreshing profile for the hot summer. And I'm fine with it either way, but I do think this is probably the best. So now let's go ahead and try the coconut vanilla. The blend here is the exact same as the pistachio, and in fact the description on the website is identical to the pistachio. That almost makes me think that they may have used the exact same batch of coffee, with the only difference being the flavoring in the end. That's not inherently a bad thing. When you flavor coffee, depending on how strong the flavor is, the origin and quality of your coffee beans begins to become less important. For the coconut here, it says the smooth caramelly notes of our Latin American coffees meet the sweet coconut vanilla flavor in a refreshing, happy treat. So that description is not very helpful compared to the pistachio, but let's make it, taste it, and see how it goes. And again, this pod is also listed and recommended as either espresso or iced coffee. Alrighty, so let's see what we have on the nose. For some reason, sometimes Nespresso has this it's kind of like wet dog smell right away. I think it'll start to go away after a little bit, but I'm not sure why, if it's just the flavored ones or not, but it's interesting. Okay, so I'm getting kind of like a burnt marshmallow. I'm not getting much coconut or vanilla on this one. Yeah, it's not really opening up, but let's just taste it, see how it changes. Okay, so I do get some coconut. It's a little in the background. It is kind of a dark toasted type coconut. But it's still masked by this sort of burnt vanilla, burnt marshmallow. It's not as bright and lively as the pistachio was. I almost wonder now if they actually do have a different ratio of Brazil to Colombia for this coffee. They might. Let's go ahead and add some ice, and we'll see how that changes things. It's starting to feel cold now. Smells sweeter, actually. Yeah, much brighter, more acidity, more fruitiness, more fresh coconut, kind of candied coconut rinds. I get some vanilla now, kind of like a vanilla latte you might find at a generic Starbucks. As I said before, I think it's a little bit darker. I almost feel like they did change the roast profile. But if you're a fan of darker toasted coconuts, roasted marshmallows, this is quite nice on its own and cold. Better cold than hot. Let's add some milk. It's certainly at its sweetest when milk is added. Of course, I'm also using lactose-free milk, which tends to be a bit sweeter. It turns more into a chocolate bar, or sort of a coconut candy, which is quite nice. With this one, I think that the flavor is less prominent, less punchy of coconut vanilla. So I think keep your ratio of espresso to milk a little bit lower than you would with the pistachio. So overall, how would I rate these coffees? Well, I think they both performed very well at their job. It is marketed as an iced coffee, and I think that is where they both shine the best. So kudos to Nespresso for doing that job. I'm personally not the biggest fan of flavored coffees. I tend to like the lighter Nespresso roasts from single origin regions, like our Ethiopians and some of the fancier ones that they've put out in recent years. So I'll be doing some more reviews on those, hopefully soon. But if I do have a flavored coffee, I really want it to taste like its flavor. So that is why I think I prefer the pistachio over the coconut. And if you're looking to get them, they won't be around forever. They're going to be releasing new flavors, I'm sure, probably pumpkin for October, and some Christmas flavors in December. So if you want to stock up on something, I would grab the pistachio. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video.